said, I'm going to touch on it, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the EIS. I think that's public, and certainly the media coverage in the last few days has been quite overwhelming for someone in my position. It has generated a lot of interest, and certainly we are addressing those, and we will have a lot of community engagement sessions planned now and into the future. Springshaw Creek, our asset, is between Emerald and Springshaw. It's in an area of significantly good agricultural land. It is bounded by a number of mines, and it is a good location. It's 35 kilometres to the rail line. The project itself has a number of components, and environmentally we are very sensitive to the area. It does have approximately 55% of the mining lease application area is in cropping land, with the balance being grazing. The plan that you see here is actually the Denlow Park property that we purchased about 2 years ago, and is managed by Milroy Farming on behalf of Bandanna. You can see that it does have cropping land all around it, and we are conscious of that. One of our commitments is that we're committed to demonstrating that farming or mining, agriculture can coexist, and certainly from our point of view, the first 8 years of production can occur on Denlow Park. Another important point, and one that I did want to stress here this morning, is that we do have transitional provisions under the strategic cropping land legislation. That provision is not an exemption. We still have to apply for it. We still have to go through the approvals for strategic cropping land. So the comment that we have an exemption under strategic cropping land, yes, we are named, and our tenement is the only tenement that actually has its name in the strategic cropping land legislation, but that doesn't exempt us from being assessed and still gaining the necessary approvals for that. One of the key components, and something that we've been working quite hard in the background on for the last sort of 6 to 9 months that I've been on board, is our agricultural project and our agricultural plan. As I mentioned, we're keen on coexistence, and we're working very hard on that. And as part of that, we've made a decision that we want to maintain strategic cropping land and improve the local agriculture prior to and during the construction, the operation and the decommissioning of the mine. We have an agricultural plan that's looked at that, and it's been developed with the assistance from a number of people, including leading ag scientists, including consultants, including regulators. We've discussed with them, and we've also sent it for comment from interest groups such as AgForce. We do have land investment agreements in there. It's a high-level overview of what we would do. There's options to purchase land, there's options to lease land, there's options to pay an income stream from the land that we have as an underground mine. And finally, we have what we call the Springshaw Creek Agricultural Coexistence Research Committee. And it's important that the research committee is identified for what they're doing. They're assisting in doing some research on longwall mining and the impacts of longwall mining on soils, on drainage, on farm practices, and also the communities that mining come into. And so we're working heavily with that, and I thought I would outline a couple of points out of the terms of reference for that. The research is principally aimed at enabling full restoration of agricultural productivities on affected areas following longwall mining. Additional research may be commissioned to enable the support of other members in the local communities. Whilst we are targeting, and Bandanna's focus and Springshaw Creek's focus is on the longwall mining part of it, that's not to say that we won't do research on other properties if asked, or if the committee agrees to that. And the research findings on productivity and other related issues to mining will be made available to the public. So we don't know all the answers, but one of the things we want to do is we want to share the learnings that we're getting from what we're doing. Just to, and not to labour the point or anything, but I just wanted to show, this is one of the mines that I visited recently in the US. This paddock here is fully subsided, and you can see the road has been subsided. The crops are there, and the yields are still productive, and one of the requirements for them is that they maintain yields from previous yields after longwall mining. So they do a lot of work in drainage and remediation. Another slide just showing another crop, and halfway down is a 2 metre subsidence panel And you can see it's not a steep drop, it actually does pull the land and so on. That one I'm just going to flick through more for people to understand. What is involved in the Springshore Creek mine? A number of components to it. There's 2 drifts going to the to pit bottom. We are looking at an alternative for 1 drift and using tunnel boring machines, but it's something that we're in the early stages of investigation where we're working hard with a number of providers. We have some underground development works, we have surface infrastructure, maintenance facilities, workshops on site. We have an office and bathhouse, and we have substation power. There will be a coal handling facility. We are not at this stage proposing a prep plant. We are going to screen some of the coal and then use the waste product back underground. We are saying that we, in our approvals that we're seeking, we're not seeking tailing cells, we're not seeking coarse refuse disposal dumps anywhere on it, and in order to maintain our agricultural footprint as minimally as possible. We do have a haul road that I mentioned, and that's subject to another approvals and something that we will be coming out with shortly. We didn't want to confuse the issue and get multiple applications out at the same time. We do have a rail loadout and a rail loop on the Triumph Creek, we're calling it, which is a shared facility with Acacia Coal, and the area of land has been identified, and we've been in discussions with the property owners. Off-site works include road upgrades, and we've committed to upgrading the road, and people will see in the EIS. And our MD mentioned to council one day that we will bitumise the road, so I think Paul and co were happy when that came out. And we do have an accommodation village, and I'll flick through them quickly. That's our mine, and it's a 40-year mine. It is a big footprint. Importantly, not all of that area is disturbed at once. It does happen. There's about 100 hectares a year. You'll hear Michael, our MD, speak about it. 100 hectares per year per longwall is the actual subsidence impact area. So it does take a long time. As I mentioned, we do have road and coal handling. We do require power. There is enough power in the connection lines that are already available, but we will be constructing a power line. We do require additional water. We've made a commitment that we're not going to take any water from the existing agricultural business. So to that end, we have purchased an allocation of 1,000 megalitres of water, and we are going to have a pipeline to do that. And as reported in the Courier Mail today, there is a proposal for a camp, and we do have a application in with the council at the moment being assessed. The reason that we have chosen a village that is away from Emerald is important, and something that we've explained to council. We do not want the village on the Springshore Creek mining lease to protect the strategic property land and also the impacts on the surrounding neighbours. We think that we've come up with a good compromise. Our intention and our belief is that we are not going to get all of our staff sourced locally. We would love that to be the case, and we would love to have all of our 585 direct employees located in Emerald, but we understand the situation of not all people want to live in Emerald, and some want to commute, some want to live at Yeppoon and Rockhampton. Not sure why when they could live in Emerald, but some do want to live in Brisbane and fly in, fly out. So we do have a 300 bed application in with the council. As I mentioned, we do have capacity at Wiggins Island, and we are one of the founding shareholders in that, and we're working hard with Wiggins Island. Every delay that they have impacts our project timelines, and we're walking that fine balance of ensuring that we have mine coal ready for when they're ready. But we do have alternatives if our mine, if the development is a little slower, which we're hoping it's not. We do have allocated capacity in the rail network, and work is going at the moment, and we do have a coal haulage contract with Pacific National. There's Wiggins and a couple of pictures of Wiggins because they're a little bit old now. I think they're November, but it shows that it's well underway. Our development timeline, as I mentioned, our EIS approvals are out there now. Our EIS is out for public comment now. It closes on the 28th of, I think it's 28th of March, 27th. So either that or the 2 fingers or something else. But 27th, so the day before Good Friday, it closes. So it was released on Valentine's Day and closes on Easter. So so we are out there and we will be doing a lot of public consultation. Importantly, subject to approvals, construction will start in December 13, with first export coal from development, and it will be small, in April 15, and first longwall based in September. That's installed and commissioning. The second longwall will be 2020 is what we're focusing on, but I guess the important part is that it's a staged build-up, and we want to ensure that we've embedded one in the work practices and one before we go to the second longwall. We do have another 2 tenements that I spoke about, and this is one of our projects that we are working hard on. We do have a drill rig down there punching a lot of holes in and around the area. It's a Dingo West project. It's going to be a small open cut, similar to, I guess, the Yarrabies, the Jallanbars, steeply dipping, Foxleys, how they were started up. It is a small operation, no more than probably 1 million tonnes of product a year, so we are working hard on that. We do have a mining lease that has been lodged for that, so an MLA. We believe that it is a quick startup project, can be done with third-party contractors. There won't be a lot of infrastructure there. There will be requirements for a preparation plan, and we're working hard on what that would look like. So we're still working on the feasibility side of that. We do have targeted June of this year for completion of that detailed design work. And as I mentioned, this is our timeline again. Very aggressive, and certainly it's putting the challenge on a lot of people within our organisation to deliver that. But we are looking at October 14, having first coal from then. One of the benefits of having that project is that if we encounter delays in the Springshore Creek project, that we can actually use that to supplement some of our take-or-pay commitments. But we are heavily focused on developing both operations. The other project, and as I mentioned, and thanks Helen for your update, because it certainly gives us some timing confidence, is our South Galilee project. And as I mentioned, it's managed by AMCI on our behalf. It's a big open cut mine. They've gone through their EIS process at the moment, and I think it closed for public comment now, but they have been out there doing a lot of work. Importantly, from our point of view on Bandanna, part of the social impact management plan, and certainly the work that Rachel and the team have been working on, and Julie, is our social impact management plan. And one of the key components of that is our local industry participation plan. And that's been developed as part of it, and we're working with a number of agencies and a number of interest groups in Springshore, Emerald, the Council, Central Highlands Development Corporation are also involved. The objective is to maximise the opportunities for business in this region to provide goods and services through our projects. And importantly, that's not just our mine. If we currently have our farm managed by the Mildura Farming Company, but if we are to take ownership of that, then we will need to engage with local people and local skills. As I mentioned, it's in development, and we're working with the Central Highlands Regional Council and the Central Highlands Business Development Corporation and other stakeholders in developing this. One of the key points of that is that actually they will assist people pre-qualified who works with companies like Bandanna and arrange facilitation and meetings of different parties. We are going to do some work during our community consultation period with local businesses and engaging and understanding what the local businesses have, and so we'll be having a number of forums with them. That's about my presentation. I didn't want to go into a lot of Springshore Creek, and I mean it is in the media. I'm sure that there's probably questions about it, but I'm happy to answer them, or the team is happy to answer them at the end as well.
I'm glad you did give us a lot of information, Stuart. So, no, that was extremely comprehensive, and obviously to get over it in the short period of time this morning. We've actually caught up a bit Can I just say that if people do have to go, we respectfully suggest that, you know, these forums have always been about fitting them in so that people can come and attend. If you do need to go, certainly make your way, and we'll have people stay here and ask the questions. The questions will be, if you can gather your thoughts, any of those questions or queries you may have had. I think we'll have about 10 minutes. I guess what Stuart just said at the end, I'm very conscious that Stuart actually this morning spoke with some of his local, I guess you'd say, community members in the Gindi area, in the farming area adjacent to Central Creek. If they want to continue that discussion, I think that would be a really great thing to do after the forum. I think the forum is about the business here this morning, and we'd like to get those questions in. And as I said to Stuart this morning, he's quite happy to take those questions in the forum relating to the business. But certainly the idea of everyone being here this morning in the groups, so that you can actually take that opportunity to sit down and actually have those discussions, so you know the people that you're dealing with. But if you would, people with questions, if you can stand in your place, just say who you are, and just nominate which speaker you'd like to ask the questions. Someone like to kick off? I realise it's been very, very comprehensive, and there's a lot of information to digest, but if there's a question that's burning, raise a question. Yes? Yeah, just stay there, Paul.
We intend to, where we can, source local products and services from contractors and companies within the region. Obviously, that has to be competitive with other sources, but our intention is to use local resources and products and employment where we can. Yeah, we're actually putting together hopefully in the next few months, a shop front within the region, and we have on-site representation. The website, we're in the process of redeveloping that, and creating an opportunity for people to be in contact with us via email or personally.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Chris, for the questions there. Everyone got those? That's just relating to what Helen actually alluded to in her conversation was about ICN and obviously those business opportunities. So we'll actually take those up, and I'm sure Sandra will actually probably be able to facilitate some of that. And that's good that we get that feedback. Other questions? Oh, yes. Ross Bates.
Ross Bates, look, I'd like a question to Stuart Clark. On the 31st of December, the Courier Mail reported Bandanna Energy was one of Queensland's worst performing companies. Its share price in 18 months had fallen from $2 to today 27 cents. Obviously, the financial markets have no confidence in Bandanna, and I'd like to know what's changed so we can get confidence in it.
Thanks, Ross. And look, I'm sure if everyone's happy to have that question answered. I mean, it's a curly one, but I'd rather, if Stuart would like to answer it again.
Yeah, no problem, thanks. Look, it's fair to say that all of the coal companies have suffered under this current political environment that we're in, and there has been, we are not on our line. Yes, we did have a large decline in share price. That was on the back of, our share growth was a lot on the back of speculation of a takeover in 2011. And certainly that was what drove the prices to the highs. I personally would love to see it back up there. It would certainly make my job and Michael Gray's job a lot easier. But we're out there, and as I mentioned, we have funding. We have full allocation for the Port of Wiggins Island. We do have funding to build this mine to get the initial development construction underway. So we are very confident. The markets are a funny thing. Some days BHP are up, some days they're down. I don't control that. I wish I could, and I'd probably wouldn't be developing coal mines if I was as good at predicting stocks.
Thanks very much, Stuart. And thank you, Ross. And I mean, I didn't for one moment assume previously that agriculture obviously is an important business. And I think it's a lesson, I think, that you know, all resource companies and all the stakeholders in the region have got to understand. It's that we're all businesses, and whilst there might be opportunities for some, there's actually a disincentive in fact for perhaps others. And I respect that point. And obviously that's a discussion that we'll keep having. So, any other questions? It's a bit of an over. Yeah, just here. Look, just for the purpose of hearing the question, Barry's just asked a question about Gina Reinhardt being, I guess, in the press, I guess, about some imported labour. I think there's a politically correct term for that, but it eludes me right now. I can't even get the coal company people right. But I guess, yeah, the point is, I mean, that opportunity is there, and I'll ask Helen to answer that question.
Thank you for the question. Enterprise migration agreements, I think, was the technical term, and I think Roy Hill put in an application for one on the basis that they actually couldn't get all of their labour in WA. We haven't applied for one of those in Queensland. We are hoping with, we are hoping that with the change, how do I say this, in global economic circumstances at the moment, that labour may not be as short as it was, say, a couple of years ago. And where obviously the policies are very clear with the Australian and state governments that you really source your labour locally, nationally, very much first, and obviously that's in everyone's interest to do that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Barry. Any more for any more? Oh, yeah, just here. I'll bring the microphone to you.
It's basically for GVK at this present moment with regards to the rail line. Have you ever thought, I've been speaking with Gina Reinhardt's secretary with regards to putting a long overland conveyor from Alpha through to Abbott Point, which does not upset the landholders in that they still graze and farm under the conveyors. It is solar powered. It's one single flight conveyor, 503 kilometres, the way it's worked out at this stage. And it works out about half the cost of the rail and about 1/10 the cost of the transportation. So you have a, basically what I was asking was, do you have a transportation agreement at this stage?
Thank you for that.
Actually, I think you might have written a letter into Mrs. Reinhardt at one point.
Yes, I've written a few emails.
Yep. Look, I've worked on building railways and conveyors as it happens. I would also say that at this point in time we have at least 70% of our landholders signed up with contracts. All of those landholders who are graziers will still be doing the same business after our railway line is there that they are doing now. I won't go into technical details of all the overpasses, underpasses, etc. and everything else, but one of the obligations you have when you're building any infrastructure, particularly a railway line, is obviously to do the necessary additional infrastructure, move things, whatever it takes in terms of that, to make sure that those businesses continue whilst the railway is there. And obviously there are cattle grazing up against some railways already around Australia. In terms of conveyors, I know there's been a lot of work done on slurries and other things as well, but we have a transportation group, to answer your question, and yes, we did very early on even look at conveyors even just up at the northern end of the port, but I think we are pretty comfortable with the standard gauge rail solution that actually gives us significant economies over and above what's already operating to date, and I guess takes a lot of the learnings from WA and the US in terms of working that through, and we'll certainly be able to accommodate not only the coal going up, but hopefully some backloading coming back with diesel if that's needed. But I'm quite proud of the fact that I would hope that in 10 years' time, I'll be able to still see that all of those properties are still operating in amongst our railway as they are now. We have internal people obviously working on our railway. We have, I've had 20 years in the rail industry actually building railway lines, and amongst other things, as we've got a fair amount of internal expertise there as well. I'm not actually working on it anymore, but we have a lot of technical people. It's at the stage now where it's basically designed, and the construction contracts, as I said earlier, will be hopefully entered into in the next 2 years by people obviously who won't be first timers. As a company, we tend to go down the route of whilst being quite innovative, getting people who are very good at what they're doing to do it for us as well in terms of construction.
Thank you very much. I hope that partially answers your question. You've got a Basin person there you can speak to. Any other questions? Sorry, Chris, you have one. I'll just go one here, if you don't mind.
Josh Logan from Hancock, Helen and Rockhampton. Just a quick question on the employees. You mentioned that it'll be a little bit easier to get employees in the future market. That's possible, I think. The other mines coming back from bust come boom, I guess. Further to that, if you've got any vision, given the size of your workforce, on how you might engage with regional centres, i.e. Cairns, Rocky, etc., for potential flying fly out or drive out, the impacts that may have on those local government areas as part of your consultation process.
Told you they're all easy.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good question, and I didn't want to go into a lot of detail on that this morning, mainly due to time constraints. We've got, in fact, one of the things that you can look at is we have an agreement with the Wide Bay Regional Development Authority to work with that area in terms of employment. We're looking at basically sourcing, as most companies I suspect are, a lot of FIFO during construction obviously, and a lot of that will come from the coast and we believe also northern New South Wales. So from Cairns right down to northern New South Wales, potentially Sydney. We're not sure at this point in time that we'll be doing what's happening at the moment where Queensland people fly over to WA and vice versa. One of my sons does that, but never mind. He tells me he gets paid more over there. So, we've certainly got all of those plans. We would expect during operational workforce, which is very important, that in terms of the railway and the port, obviously, I think the Whitsunday area is probably a nice area, and we expect not to have too much trouble with people choosing to live there, but we can't mandate obviously where anyone lives. So we believe that that's our general focus at the moment. And I take your point, you can never tell what's going to happen to the labour market, whether it loosens up or gets tighter, but you've got to play it by ear, I think, a little bit and focus on what is there at the time. And we do, apart from it, I think it is fairly mandatory. I mean, it really is common sense to get your labour through from local and work through that system up to national before we start looking at anything overseas, because the costs actually of overseas workers would be a lot more than local workers by the time you add everything else in, as I'm advised anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, Helen. Look, if I can, we've actually gone over time a little bit. Chris, can we just get that last question from you? Can you yell out in a very loud voice?
My question is primarily for Helen, but the others are open as well. Just regarding, Helen, you were talking about the MOU railway line, to get some other projects on the railway line as well. Given that the Queensland farmers are supposed to double projected production by 2040, are there any discussions with putting grain or cattle or anything on those railway lines as well?
Just asking a question about perhaps the use on the rail lines, Helen.
Yeah, it's a predominantly a bulk haulage railway. It's set up that way. Sorry, I didn't stand up again. No disrespect, my knee's gone. And I understand what you're talking about because I did spend some considerable time many years ago keeping cattle on railways in Queensland when every other state went out of it. So it's not that I don't understand those issues, but I think the economics alone, particularly of cattle, will make that difficult, but I would hope never that gets... but we're not the railway, I guess, for that. It goes to Abbott Point. It's an origin-destination railway via that. And I would have to say, to be honest, that cattle has been a question often asked, but not something that we can address. And we are not close to a lot of agricultural areas at the moment, but we're certainly a bulk haulage railway, so we can sometimes, obviously, the bulk haul in WA, and was historically in Queensland predominantly, so I guess other bulk haulage other than coal is probably a future discussion should there be demand.
Look, we might wrap it up. I know probably questions often raise other questions, but certainly, you know, as I said, at an item today, you can actually approach the speakers today. They've made themselves available, and they're certainly very relaxed now. Paul, very relaxed, and keen to take some of those questions. Just to sum up, obviously, it's been a very informative session. It's a very timely session in respect of the subject today. It would be fair to say, in terms of you know, some cycles of confidence, you know, things have changed, and it still is a very moving piece. And it's very important to get these updates. The important thing, though, is how do we actually get some solutions and some assistance and some benefit and some opportunity out of it, and that's to make sure that you obviously keep getting this information. You've got to do that with the CHDC. They make an unmitigated plug for your support and to help and support you, so it's a two-way street. I think if we talk about our speakers this morning, you know, Paul talked about probably the key part of his speech about being a very nimble company, the change of size, and the sorts of companies that you're going to see in some of the resource regions. And perhaps the lesson there is that we may have to be nimble right back, gear our business towards responding quickly, being aware of what their needs are, and being able to be sort of, I guess you'd say, shovel ready. Helen, obviously, in charge of a lot of logistics, a lot of those questions about those logistics, it's certainly a big concern. It was very interesting, I suppose, in terms of the information that Helen gave us this morning, that, you know, there's confidence, you know, certainly the local evidence, you know, sometimes that's a difficult thing to keep a hold of, but in terms of a global aspect, that marketing aspect that says, you know, there is still a good interest in thermal coal. Lots of people in the world think it's very important. That's the opportunity that we're taking. So thank you for that, Helen. And of course, Stuart put a lot of information in that last session, and probably about some very current issues. So I guess you've got a very multifaceted, a lot of examples of people and place, and certainly the conflict that is certainly coming. And that is a part of it. I mean, you know, we can brush over it, but there's going to be issues there, and companies and businesses and communities are aware that these things have got to be talked through, and there's got to be solutions. These things don't happen, as I said, without a lot of effort, and from the CHDC particularly. And I'd like you to recognise certainly Sandra Hobbs here this morning. And using a very poor analogy, but particularly in this instance, but no football team is you know, complete without a good halfback, a good fullback, a good number 9, and all those other blokes on the forwards. But certainly, today particularly, Liana Panisi, who's down the back there, has done a hell of a lot of work in coordinating this. Thank you very much, Liana. Elena Garnsworthy, who's sitting here right here at the front. Kimberly Senior down the back. Debbie Gibson over there. Nikki, the new Nikki, yeah, down the corner there. I don't want to not mention anyone. All these people, it's a great big team effort. As you can see, logistically, it takes a lot of putting together, and we hope you're getting value from it. Now, the way to keep getting this information, as I said, the video is available on the website, and I did touch myself up a little bit this morning and put the tie on, but you can check out at 4 o'clock, although the light wasn't on. And I've got some sticky stuff on the side of my head, but it, you can still get to see that on the website. and obviously to keep getting the e-blast, and I think a lot of people, even the courtesy of having all the road reports just recently with lots of the events that were happening, you still get that full service from CHDC, so make sure you go there. Sonia?
What about the slides, Terry? Will they be available?
The presentations will be on the website as well, Sonia. Thank you very much. Good question. Lastly but not least, as I said, people put their hand in their pocket and they make these things happen. CHD Shaw got a budget, the council, the Central Highlands Regional Council, and thank you very much, they have a budget as well. But it says major sponsors, the CH Auto Group, put their money in here, make sure they sponsor these breakfasts, make them happen. It's real money going to something, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps it up. We have gone a little bit over time this morning. We appreciate your patience. We strongly advise you, if you have some issues that you'd like to take up, our presenters have been very, very keen to speak to you. It's a great forum. I hope you've gained something from it, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.